You're the very air that I breathe. In you, God, I live, I move, and have my being, God. You're everything, Jesus. You're everything, God. When I was lost, you found me. When I was blind, you...
Yes, yes, yes. Hello, everyone. Hello and blessings to you all. Welcome to the Faith Broadcasters Network, FBN, your one and only favorite Christian contemporary network. We are so excited to come your way once again. This is the time of reflection show with myself. I am your host, Anita Ansah. Today, as we all know, February is Love Month, right? And we recently celebrated Valentine's Day. And, in light of what February is all about, today we have a special guest and a special episode. I just want to say hello to all my viewers. If you are watching, please share. Make sure you like the Faith Broadcasters Network. We are on Facebook as well as on YouTube. So if you can't catch us on Facebook, you can definitely catch us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. I have wonderful team working with me behind the scenes. They're doing an amazing job. So thank you so much for joining us today for our wonderful discussion. Today, the topic is love enough? That's the question. Is love enough? Today, we're going to talk about sickle cell disease and relationships. Sickle cell disease and relationships. This topic is very, very dear to my heart because I work in a hospital as a chaplain and I come across a lot of patients with sickle cell as well as family members, and having to interact with them. I've learned so much. And when I decided to talk about this thing, I said, who better can I share this platform with and talk about it with than none other than my very good friend. She's gonna come on very soon to introduce herself. I mean, she's a mighty woman of God. She's a mother of three. She's a wife of one. Yes, hallelujah. She's an amazing woman. She has a foundation in Ghana which caters to patients or families with sickle cell disease, or families who are raising children with sickle cell disease. She's going to tell you all about it, but I believe that today's episode is going to be educating, encouraging, and inspiring. So stay tuned, please. I want you to comment. I want you to share. Please bring your questions because I know this is a topic that we don't talk about often, right? There's a stigma attached to it. But today, we hope to break that stigma and give you the peace and the knowledge that you need in order for you to make an informed decision. So without any more delay, I want to welcome my guest, Miss Rachel P. She's going to tell you what her last name is because it's so long I can't pronounce it. So Miss Rachel P, welcome to the Time of Reflection show. How are you doing?
Hey, I am wonderful. I am very blessed. How are you doing?
I am amazing. It's always good to see you. So I'm amazing. You're looking great.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very, very excited to be here. I love this network and I am honored to be here. And
That's
like you said, my name is Rachel Pana, and
How do you pronounce your last name?
yes, Rachel Panagiotou, and I am the founder of Let's Create Together Foundation. And we focus on helping children with chronic illnesses such as sickle cell disease. And for now, we've started in Ghana. So that's where we are starting now. But, eventually, as we go on, we're going to spread that across the world.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Well, God bless everything that you're doing. I know your organization is doing an amazing job. So it's very, very important to raise awareness. So thank you so much for joining me on the show. Um, Okay, she just said she can't hear me. Hopefully, everything. Can you hear me, Rachel? Okay. So there might be a little delay back and forth, guys, but hopefully we'll be able to work things out. Um, okay, so today we'll be talking about sickle cell. What is sickle cell? And I know many of you probably have not even heard of sickle cell before, or some of you have, but have not really paid close attention to sickle cell. So today's discussion is basically about sickle cell and relationships. In life, you can never go about without a relationship. Relationship is a paramount thing. Whether it's relationship with yourself, whether it is with your significant other, whether it is with your family. And having a chronic disease can affect the level of your relationship or how even people interact with you. And so today we are going to talk about, especially when it comes to relationship and people with sickle cell. We're going to focus on dating and marriage. But a lot of the viewers are probably not aware of what sickle cell is. So Miss Rachel, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
wonderful, wonderful, great. Yes, I can hear you. So, if you can
Okay.
just lay a little foundation of what is sickle cell disease. A lot of us hear about it. Maybe growing up in Africa, we hear the name so many times, but people never stop to actually understand what sickle cell disease is about. So, if you can let us know what is sickle cell disease and why is it so important to raise awareness?
Sure. Sure. First of all, I like to say that we know a lot about other diseases in this world, but sickle cell disease is not put out there. And so I'm glad that we're talking about it. And for the definition, the actual definition or medical definition, sickle cell disease is an inherited blood disorder. Okay, that is characterized by a defective hemoglobin. And a hemoglobin is simply a protein in the red blood cells that is responsible for carrying oxygen to the other tissues of the body. So people who have sickle cell disease have their red blood cells sickled like a C. That's why it's called sickle. It's like a C shape. And a regular red blood cell is an O shape. So oxygen goes all around, but a sickle cell is C. So that little space that is left between the C is where is lacking oxygen. And people with sickle cell disease do not have that enough oxygen that go throughout the rest of the body. Therefore, it's like a car. I'll put it in lay terms. It's like a car is a form of transportation. So the car is the red blood cell. It's supposed to transport oxygen. So the car is supposed to take goods and services to a particular destination, right? So when that car is unable to go because there isn't enough fuel for it to carry those goods and services to one place, then the body begins to shut down and have a quote unquote crisis or pain crises. That is not a typical kind of pain, but again, the rest of the body does not have that enough oxygen to do what it's supposed to do. So then the body begins to break down. So that's, fairly speaking, sickle cell disease. And a lot of people don't have that information and awareness to even understand how this stuff works. But I believe that because it's an inherited blood disorder, it can be prevented. It can be prevented. So that's why we're here.
Wow. Okay, that is wonderful. You said something that I want to just piggyback off of. So first, you said that sickle cell disorder is an inherited blood disorder. Now let's
Right.
pause right there because I've heard a lot of stigmas about sickle cell, whereby if someone has sickle cell and you go next to them, you might catch it too. Some people think it's airborne. Some people think it's contagious. Some people think it is a disease whereby once you are close to someone with sickle cell, you're automatically going to catch it. So I am glad that you pinpointed the fact that it is an inherited blood disorder. So let's
Right.
talk about, and then I know that you also mentioned something about it can be prevented, right? And I think that
Correct.
is where we are also going to go. So when we talk about an inherited blood disorder, it means that it has to come from your parents. Am I right?
Correct. Yes.
and
Yes.
and so let's talk about how you get it, because let's say my parents, and why it's important to know your genotype before you get
Mm-hmm.
married. Because if
Mm-hmm.
sickle cell disease is an inherited blood disorder, it means that it came from, whether it is both your parents having it, or whether your
Mm-hmm.
mother had the disease, or and your
Mm-hmm.
father had the trait, or vice versa. There's a lot of components to someone having sickle cell disease. So now let's talk
Right.
about the different types of sickle cell disease which can be inherited. Because when we hear the word sickle cell disease, all we know is the SS, right? And the
Right.
SS is basically the major is kind of like when you categorize it, because so sickle cell has categories, and the
Mm-hmm.
SS is the major form of sickle cell disease that one can have. But then there are other components to it too that I think we need to address. And Miss Rachel, I want you to just talk about, I recently found out that there was a sickle cell group SC. And to be honest with you, I never knew SC existed in my life, because growing up in Ghana and even coming in to America, working in a hospital, all I hear is either you have the sickle cell disease, which is the SS, or the
Right.
trait, which is the AS. And so
Right.
the SC, where does it, like, can you tell me a little bit about the SC, and maybe,
Right.
if you can shine light on the importance of even knowing your genotype, because it's very important.
Sure. 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 Thank you. Thank you. So first of all, as I mentioned, is inherited, and that just means that it comes from two parents. Two parents coming together. That's how you're gonna get sickle cell or not get sickle cell. Now, if you know your genotype, and what is genotype? It's simply a blood test. We do blood tests for different things, for HIV, for syphilis. There are different kinds of things that we find through a blood test. Well, guess what? Sickle cell can also be found through a simple blood test. Now, when I'll use, for example, the SS, which a lot of people know is the severe form of sickle cell, because there's a defective hemoglobin S and another defective hemoglobin S. So when two defective hemoglobin, which is just a red blood cell that is abnormal, comes together, that means one parent has maybe SS and another parent had AS, which is typically a trait. When they come together, the chances of having a child with sickle cell disease is high, is very
Yes.
high. So based off of that, if you know your genotype, if you know your blood test, if you take that blood test, you can prevent having children that are going to have the disease by just a simple blood test. And as you mentioned, SC is very rare, but is also part of a sickle cell disease. SC is basically when someone with a trait and another person with a trait. So AS is a trait, okay? And then another trait is called AC. AC is also rare, but it exists. Now, when those two come together, okay, AS plus AC, the S from the AS and the C from the AC comes together, and that is where you get the SC. Now, SC typically is not known to be as severe as the SS, okay? But it still has its complications, whereby if that patient is not taking good care of themselves or they overstress. Typically with SC is just indulging in very strenuous, very stressful activities that are ongoing for a long period of time. You can get dehydrated if you don't keep up with your fluids, and then you can get very sick from pain crises from an ongoing and stressful activity that is just for months and months and months. It could be, I don't know, it could be anything that is physically involving of yourself. That is SC. So that's what I wanted to put out there.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much for educating me and also for educating the rest of us, because many people don't understand the severity of it. And I also came to learn that even with the AS, the people with the sickle cell trait, they can experience some form of illness. Some form of pain crises, which I recently found out that one of the American NFL players
Mm,
recently, got sick and went to the hospital and had to get his spleen or something taken out, because he never knew that he had the sickle cell trait. And with football, there's a lot of like exertion, a lot of like exercise and stuff, the stress that comes with it. So I think that that kind of raised certain things, and because of that, he had to have surgery. And during that process, that is when he found out that he has the sickle cell trait. So God forbid if he had not never found out, and let's say he goes and marry a woman with even the AS, okay, another
right,
trait, there is a chance that their child will also have the disease.
right,
And God forbid if he went out to marry someone with the SS, there is definitely a chance. I mean, the chance is like 75% chance of the child having the disease. So it is very, very important. So the question is, Miss Rachel, before I even ask you this question, is love enough? I want us to talk about the severity of sickle
yeah,
cell pain crises and what it
mm,
can do to you, because a lot of children, because of, I was talking to one of my friends who has sickle cell disease, and I always see her in the hospital all the time. And one of the
mm,
things she told me was that, you know what, she doesn't blame anyone but her parents. She said she
mm,
blames her parents because of the lack of ignorance. And when she said that, I
wow,
was shocked, because I was like, wow, this is harsh. Like, this is. And she said, no. She said, you don't understand the pain I'm going through. Every month, she's
right,
in the hospital like about 10 or 15 times. She spends her life in the hospital. She had to drop out of school because she cannot even go to school that often because she's always in pain, okay? Even getting
right,
a job is difficult because when you have a job and you keep calling out, because when it comes to
mm,
pain crises with patients with sickle cell, people with sickle cell, it is so unpredictable. One minute you'll be talking to someone and the person is okay. The next minute you call them in the evening and they tell you they're in the hospital. You're like, what happened? Because it is
right,
something that can occur without any notification. Okay, so
mm,
a lot of people are going through this, and so for her to tell me she blamed her parents, and I said, well, we need to educate the African community, because with sickle cell disease, it is very prone in the African American and the African community. People say it is a
yes,
black thing, which I've seen a lot of Spanish people with it too, but it's not that, it's not that common. And some white people, I recently met a white woman with sickle cell disease and I was shocked. I said, wow, I thought sickle cell was a black thing. So you can tell that the stereotype and the stigma that we have is breaking little by little. And I pray that,
mm,
after this discussion, there will be a lot of awareness. Because when it comes to
yeah,
sickle cell, I asked her, I said, we need to educate the African community, especially the Ghanaian community. She said she doesn't want to even waste her time educating because some people know and they intentionally decide to still get married. So
mm,
this is where the question comes in, Miss Rachel. Is love enough? Looking at the fact that sickle cell disease, you can suffer from stroke if you have sickle cell. The pain crises alone, I was talking to a lady who recently gave birth, and she was talking about, a childbirth and sickle cell disease, the pain. And she said that you can compare. She said that, what did she said the pain of sickle cell does not even compare to the pain you go through in childbirth. And I was like, wow. Like, then
wow,
it means that the severity of the pain, people don't understand. It's not a joke. Okay, you can get stroke from having sickle cell disease. You can have something called acute chest syndrome, which is we're not even going to talk about it right now, but I'm pretty sure the CDC has a lot of information about Center for Disease Control. When you go on their website, they have a lot of information. You can have heart problem, you can have kidney problems. Complications in pregnancy is a lot. People with sickle cell disease, when immediately when they get pregnant, they are put on high risk. So with and there's even more things that goes with it. So Miss Rachel, with this foundation that we have laid, is love enough? Why is it so important for us to look past the love, especially us young people in relationships? And I know this lady who went to church and the pastor said, well, you guys, if before you get married, you have to do a blood test. And they stopped going to the church because they felt like the pastor was just trying to prevent them from getting married. So, Miss Rachel, is love enough?
Wow. This is absolutely why I founded our organization, Let's Create Together Foundation, because of the lack of education, especially in the African community. Now, if you're in the Western world and you're even an African and you find out that you have this disease, your chances of doing well is higher than in Africa setup where healthcare system is really, really bad. So for me, the sickle cell disease is a big issue. It's a big issue because, as you mentioned, talking about it even in the community. Okay. And I think the Black community, the problem is we're not open to learning anything new. We're not open to
Mm,
accepting things that are just not the way it used to be. If my great grandmother's time, they didn't have access to blood tests and genotypes, and they had children with sickle cell disease. You can't compare that to now. We have so many resources, we have so many things available for you to be able to avoid bringing children into the world with sickle cell disease. Now, the thing is, people are talking about love, love, love. Okay, love is good, but your love is going to be tested when you and your partner have to take that child to the hospital every single time in pain crisis. They can go to school as they often will, or they will be in school. They're going to call you to come and pick up the child. Your life is going to be on a halt because the severity of the problem is not even seen as a problem. And for me, I think as the African community with this mindset, it's just a mindset that we need to renew and understand that, okay, you may have the trait and be living a normal life, but if you go marry somebody also with a trait, the chances, 50% chances of you getting a child with the disease is going to change your life because you have to be present, or what are you going to do with the child? But you brought the child into the world. And children actually below the age of 5 years old who are diagnosed with sickle cell disease, the chances of mortality, okay, mortality is so high. Why? Because the SS especially is not something that typically you can really cure unless they have a sibling. If they have a sibling, then you can think about bone marrow transplant, but that is expensive. Do you have that money? Do you have an insurance that can take care of a bone marrow transplant when you have a child with sickle cell disease? Have you thought about all the other complications? Like I was saying to someone the other day, when you're going into a relationship, there are so many things while you're there. Okay, if you don't like the person's temper, you leave, right? If you don't like the fact that they are not working, you don't like it. Well, if you go in there, one of the first things, especially if your intention is to marry or have sexual intercourse at this point, because you never know if your birth control is also not going to save you and you're going to
mm-hmm.
get pregnant. Because in the Black community, most of the times, some of us were born, not because not because
Unplanned,
our mom and
unplanned.
dad.
Yes,
Right.
unplanned.
We were unplanned pregnancies. So you can't just take the risk and say, well, it's fine. No, it's not okay. You have to the same way you do blood tests for finding sexually transmitted diseases, you should be able to do one for sickle cell disease and know that you and your partner, if you are traits, it's a big no-no. And I know the chances are, okay, then am I ever gonna marry? Am I ever gonna find someone? Yes, you can find someone if you keep doing the test. But if you don't do the test and you get caught up with love, your love is going to be tested so much where you don't even get to enjoy the whole concept of having a child and raising a family. So I encourage, one of the reasons why I'm here today is really push forth the fact that, one, be educated about this disease because it's so rampant in the Black community. Now the Spanish people may have it, but the Black is like 90%. Okay, 90% of Blacks have this situation, whether it's the traits. Now think about it for a minute. If Black communities are producing more traits, it means there
Hmm.
are what? Two parents who had
Yeah.
two parents
Yeah.
who have the disease, or two parents who have the
You have
traits.
the
So
traits.
that
Yep.
should tell you, go ahead.
No, no, no. Go ahead.
That should tell you that this is continuing because there is no education, and people are not taking the steps. But if you can prevent that child's life, and that's why I am on the ground with this foundation, and I've talked with so many families who, there's a particular family they had to separate, and they didn't even know. All they had four kids, and all of them have SS. Now,
Mm.
both parents were AS. One AS, one AS. Had four kids in Ghana. They didn't know anything about this sickle cell thing. And four kids had the SS. After so much counseling, they had to separate because, in Ghana they don't have access to birth control, so you don't know if they're going to have another child with that essence. The family breaks up eventually. Why put yourself in that situation when we're in a day and an era where you can actually just go to the hospital and get a blood test to confirm your genotype, whether you have the disease or you have the trait, and then from there you can actually make an informed decision. So I don't think love is really enough for this situation.
It sounds like a very simple answer, right? But it's so like the reason behind it's not being enough should be what we need to focus on. And like Miss Rachel said, there's so many disadvantage, okay? And there's so many things that love cannot cover up. Love cannot cover up watching your child screaming and crying in pain as a baby, and you don't even know because they cannot articulate their pain. They cannot articulate where it's coming from. And it's like you're having sleepless nights because you don't even know what is wrong with your child. Love
Right.
cannot cover up when the mother or the father has to quit their job because their child is always in the hospital
And it's
24/7 and they
expensive.
need someone to be by themselves. Love does not cover up when you send a child to the hospital and if there's no advocate next to them, they treat the child anyhow. Love cannot cover up when you see your child in crises and I know a parent who said, "Man, I wish this thing was me and not my child." Well, it's too
Mm,
late. We
right.
say that out of sympathy. We say that, and I'm so passionate about being an advocate for sickle cell and being a sickle cell educator, even when it comes to me being a chaplain in a hospital here in New Jersey. Because let's talk about the stigma, even the stigma attached to patients or people with sickle cell, even in America. How much
Mm,
more people in third world countries or countries that don't cannot even receive the health care that they need, even in
yeah.
America where most of the time our health care is covered by Medicaid and stuff like that. Black people with sickle cell disease, when they come to the hospital, some
Mm,
people treat them like they're coming because they are drug addicts. They
Mm.
are coming to seek drugs, and I have seen it for myself where I had to go and advocate for a patient who came to the emergency room in United States of America. They were in
Mm.
sickle cell crisis, but
Mm.
because there was no blood oozing out of their system, and
Right.
because the pain is so severe that the doctors and nurses do not even have the education to treat patients with sickle cell. This girl was tossing back and forth in the bed, rubbing her
Wow.
legs, rubbing her arms. It took them about 30 minutes to 45 minutes for them to give her an IV fluid. And it took them about another hour for them to give her a pain medication because they feel like, oh, the pain is not that serious. She is pretending.
Wow.
And when you are in sickle cell crisis, the longer you delay with treatment, the worse it gets. And people don't understand. And most people, Miss Rachel, that is why most people don't go to the hospital when they are in crisis.
Wow.
They would rather stay home and deal with the pain because of the fact that when they go to the hospital, they're gonna be like, oh, here comes another black woman, here comes another
Mm.
black man who
Seeking
just wants,
drugs. Right.
just wants medication, just wants some morphine and oxycodone
Mm.
and this and that.
Mm.
But that is even that medication does not even take away the pain. It just helps to manage the pain a little bit. Okay,
Right.
so like Miss
Right.
Rachel said, love is not enough. But Miss Rachel, let's say you are deeply in love with someone, you guys are about to get married, and you
Mm.
found out that the person, one of you has the disease or the trait. Is that a ground for breakup? Like, because you love the person so much, you've spent so much time getting to know this person, only to find
Mm.
this out. Is that a ground for breakup? Because let's talk about love. Sometimes love, you're so entangled that sometimes you can look past certain things. But how can you work around it? And is there a reason for breakup?
Honestly speaking, again, I've been married for some years now. And even with love, okay, like I said earlier, your love is tested. Even if there is no disease related to the test of your love. Now, I have a friend's friend who they were very much aware they were both sickle cell traits, and they went ahead and got married. Their first child had a full-blown SS, very severe, with all kinds of complications, and then they had a second child who just happened to have the trait. Now, they don't have to worry about the second child, but trust me, they are on the verge of separation right now as we speak,
Mm,
because
mm,
the child is not only hospital bound, okay, it's so expensive. It's
mm,
so expensive. They are both working so hard. The father has to work two jobs, okay, since the complications is getting worse. And what you don't even want your child to experience is a stroke, because the stroke, it just takes everything out of that child or that human being. So going back to, if you already love the person and you've been either married or you're with the person, and then you find out later they have the situation, do you leave? I don't believe in divorce if you're married, but for this case is why we're telling everybody to do blood tests before you get into it. Because
mm,
now, guess what? When you get into it, you're going to be dealing with this predicament. Do I leave? Do I stay? What about the child? What do we do? And there's a case in Ghana. As through my foundation, I even found out. Okay? There's a young man who was married to a young lady. They have a son. Okay? This child has full blown SS to the point he had a stroke. He had the acute chest syndrome. I mean, it's a really bad situation. Very sad. The mother of this child left. Okay?
mm,
She left the marriage with no announcements, and they still cannot trace her. That means his father had to quit his job, and he told himself, I'm not going to give up on this child. But he is so devastated. He doesn't have the money because he's not working. He has to take off this child. Now, as a foundation, he's looking towards foundations and other charities to help him raise his son. There is no need to get into a situation when you know it can be prevented. There are other diseases that, like autism, you can't even find that out until you are pregnant with the child, and then they do the blood test, and then they do the screening and all of that. But if sickle cell is saying, hey, you can prevent me, take a blood test before you get married, take the blood test before you actually have sexual intercourse that is meant to have a baby, or in this case an unplanned pregnancy, don't risk it, avoid it. So for me, if you ask me, at that point you have to separate. You have to separate, because it's not going to get any better, and you're not going to say that you're not going to sleep with your spouse anymore since you've had a child with sickle cell disease. And birth control, as we know, can help and cannot help sometimes. It's harsh, but the reality is that is why counseling is important, to have genetic counseling as well as regular marital counseling when you're dating somebody, because the numbers, I don't, even in Ghana is high, but Uganda and Kenya, about 45% of children have this disease. And my heart breaks. The reason why the foundation was set up, because it's such a high need in Africa. Okay, sickle cell is such a high need, and I ask myself, why are the numbers rising? Why are they rising? Well, everybody's sleeping with everybody and not doing the test they're supposed to do. Poor kids are being born into these situations, and then mothers and fathers in this situation are impoverished. They don't have the money, the resources to help the kids. And then we ask ourselves, why is Africa not moving forward? This is just one aspect. We don't even want to go into other diseases that are in Africa. But right here in America, as you mentioned, there's a stigma. Okay, there's a stigma because Black people are known, or Black men or women are known in this country to be overutilizing drugs. So the moment you show up there and you talk about you're in pain crisis, you want drugs, because morphine, I hear, is like a codeine. It's a codeine. So it can make you feel high. So when you walk in there, you're in pain and you're suffering and you want this medication, you're already having to struggle to get that. Why put
Mm,
yourself in that predicament? I think that if you really can avoid something in life, avoid it.
absolutely. If you really can avoid something in life, avoid it. Let me read some comments before they come and tell me, hey, you did not read any comments today. So, Miss Martha Lutra said, Rachel, carry on. This education is great. Mrs. Kofi said, the $1 million question. I guess when we asked, is love enough? Um, yeah, she said it's love enough. Faithy said very true. Mrs. Kofi said wow. Um, so Mrs. Kofi also said, why is the Black community prone to this? And I think you already explained it, Miss Rachel. Nelly said, love does not conquer the sickness. My goodness, that is so
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Miss Edlin said they can adapt. I think when you were talking about, people with sickle cell disease
I'd like to talk
choosing
about
to
that
get
actually.
married, yes, if they can adapt, yes, that is important. Mrs. Kofi said, So yes, like you said, genetic counseling is very important, even after marriage. If you guys want to have children, genetic counseling is so important. Now, Miss Rachel, because this topic, or the reason for time of reflection, is to shine God's light on the issues of life. So we've spoken about the issues of life. Now, Ghana is a Christian nation. So most of the health um things that we go through, most of the time they just say pray about it, and nyame beye, God will do it. God will take it away. Some people, I know some people that are sick and don't even want to go to the hospital. They would rather go to church and sleep
Mm,
in the church with their pain than to go to the hospital and get the medication.
mm,
I don't want to speak from like, I don't want to be biased, okay? So
mm,
I just want you to tell me the importance of not just minding your faith, but also minding your health. And how can
mm,
you bring both together? Because I think that in the African community or in the Ghanaian community, it is one or the other. They feel like you
mm.
cannot have both. The moment you
Right.
put two both together, it's like you don't have faith. The moment you
Mm.
put both together, it's like, oh, do you think God, you've taken God out of the equation, you've taken God out of the picture. How can you have your health, focus on your health, and also focus on your faith at the same time? Is it possible for both of them to come together?
Absolutely. God also in that same Bible says wisdom is the principal thing. And whenever God wants to do something, he needs man's participation. He needs man's involvement. He wants to give you a house. You have to talk to the realtor, right? You have to go out there and look at the houses you want, and then God can, bless it. So again, I am very strong about the way Africans think. I really think that the mindset needs to change. You can have faith, but faith comes with also understanding the same biblical verse of wisdom. God has healed you, but to take your folic acid, okay, every day, because you've been told that it helps rebuild red blood cells in your body. That's not the time to say, I'm not going to take this and I'm going to depend on God. They said, drink water. It hydrates if you have sickle cell disease so that the red blood cells are not sticky and prevent crises. You don't say, I am not going to drink water because, God has healed me. Why did God create water? I mean, God created the whole world, right? So everything that is in the whole world, God has created it. The way I want to talk about the approach is when you are giving medication, pray on it and say to yourself and pray to God, every side effect may not come near me. That's how
Yes.
I believe the approach should be. If you have to take something because the doctor has recommended it and you may not be sure, that's faith. Your faith is okay, because I need to take it, I have faith that it will work for me, it will work on my behalf. And every side effect is null and void to my body. My body will only take in all the good things of this medication so that I can
Amen.
also go on with that faith system, not to completely ignore the medication and then suffer and then die from this. Because, like I said, I deal directly with the doctors at Kolebu, and sometimes, apart from the fact that people don't have money to come and get treatment, sometimes, oh, the herbalist or the what do you call those people, the juju person, or whoever, the medical doctor, I'm sorry, not a medical doctor, a herbal doctor, right, who is saying that you don't need the doctor, you don't need the medical doctor, and then meanwhile the child is in crisis.
Mm,
We can't do that. We can't do that. Your
mm,
faith is actually application of something you don't know, you don't believe. So if you don't believe that this is not gonna help me, your faith is gonna say it's going to help me by the grace of God. It's going to heal me by the grace of God. I'm taking this in the name of Jesus so that I will be healed. Because God needs a human being to participate in the healing. The healing is not always automatic. He wouldn't have told the man to go and bathe in the water, right? What, Pastor, you can help me here with that story. The
yes.
man that had to go and, is it Layman Naaman,
Naaman,
who has to,
Naaman, yeah.
yes, he had to, why did he have to go and bathe in the water a couple of times before he got his healing? He
Mm-hmm,
had to take a
mm-hmm,
certain
mm-hmm.
action. So,
Action, yes.
we have to take action and combine our faith with it. We definitely need to combine it and not choose one over the other.
Definitely. We definitely need to combine it and not choose one over the other. I would
Yeah.
love to continue with this discussion, my goodness, but it looks like time is just creeping on us slowly. Maybe we can come back another time to talk about it. But Miss Rachel, I don't want you, I mean, I've learned so much. I don't know about you viewers, but I hope that you are learning. I hope that you're taking note. Please don't be naive, don't be ignorant. Knowledge will save your life. Wisdom, like she said, is a principal thing, and it is important. Just as you are focused on your faith, it is also important to be focused on your health. Miss Rachel, tell us a little bit about, your foundation. What is your foundation up to now, and where can people find you if they need to get in touch with you?
Sure, sure. Thank you so much for that opportunity. So Let's Create Together Foundation, again, was created to help children with chronic illnesses such as sickle cell disease, really all around the world. But for now, we're starting from Africa because that's where we have the high need of sickle cell disease in these children. And we just did a big launching and donation to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital in Ghana, December 2020. You can find more information on our website. I think we'll type that out here, www.letscreatenow.org. If you would like to volunteer or donate to the cause, please email me as well at info@letscreatenow.org. I'll also put it in the comment box. But again, we have, as you can see, we have a lot of work to do. So I am very excited about this journey. I'm passionate about it. And anybody joining on me, as Pastor Anita has joined me as a great advocate, I hope that because we are trying to stop this stigma and stop this, situation in Africa altogether, all of you can come along and we can do a better work.
Thank you so much. Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Miss Rachel. It's been an honor and a pleasure to have you grace us with your presence and your knowledge today. God bless you for the work you're doing both in America and in Ghana as well. I know that it is a much needed work. And hopefully, you and I together, along with other people with a passion for sickle cell disease or even other chronic illnesses, can come together and shine God's light on the issues of life and actually advocate for the less privileged. So thank you so much. Thank you, Miss Rachel. It was great
Thank
seeing you
you.
today. God bless you.
Thank
So to
you.
my
Thank you.
viewers, thank you so much. Thank you to my team. Oh my goodness, I cannot do this without you. The Faith Broadcasters Network, people working behind the scene, Mr. Francis and his wonderful wife, and everyone that is working behind the scenes. Thank you so much. We are live from New York. We just love you. Thank you. This is the Time of Reflection show. I just want to say that, knowledge would definitely save your life. It is very important for you to be aware of your genotype. Love is not enough, and we cannot stress it enough. Love is not enough. It is important for you to know your genotype before you even get married or even before you think about having children. It is so important because it will save your life. And for people who have children with sickle cell, please don't give up on them. There is hope. You can have sickle cell and live a normal life. Yes, things may be a little difficult, but God is able to see you through, and we are praying for you. If you need any help, please, if you need any counseling, please contact myself, Anita Ansah, on my Facebook, or you can contact the Faith Broadcasters Network, and they can definitely relay the information to me. God bless you all. Until we meet again, this is Time of Reflection with your host, Anita Ansah. Have a wonderful week. Thank you for watching. God bless you all. Bye bye.
We serve Jehovah, the King of all kings. We call him Creator, the source of all things, yeah. Some call him Conqueror, 'cause he always wins. He is the answer, 'cause he knows all things. Jesus came to die so that I live his life. He stood against the grave for my sins and reigned. Let all the earth proclaim, let all creation bow, let every heart and mind, tongue and tribe proclaim, God you reign, yeah. Jesus reigns, you rose again. Oh, Jesus reigns. Oh, yes, you reign, you reign, you reign. Yes, you do. Jesus, you live in the highest place. I worship you, yeah. You made my life, God, you made